First, I'd like to ask you about China.
Hi.
You made the testimony at the Congress. When you visited China, Chinese leader mentioned about something to divide the Pacific by United States and China.
Right.
Can you elaborate to my view about it?
Sure. We were visiting a war college, a Chinese war college, and during the course of a very good conversation with our hosts, a Chinese admiral kind of took me aside, off to the side a little bit, Hidaka-san, and he said, words to the effect, when we develop our aircraft carriers, we, China, how about we make a deal with you at Pacific Command? You, Pacific Command, you keep your U.S. carriers to the east of Hawaii, so west coast of California to the middle of the Pacific and Hawaii, and we, China, will take from Hawaii further west all the way to the Indian Ocean. You stay there, you let us know what happens where you are, we'll stay here, we'll let you know what happens where we are. I chuckled, and I declined his offer, which I think he was saying somewhat in jest. He knows, of course, that we would never agree to any such arrangement. We will continue to position our forces where we think best in the air, in the maritime domain in particular, and it is essential for us to continue home porting in Yokosuka, Japan, we think, to provide for this presence and force posture all throughout the Pacific. So it was an offer, I think, made in jest by the Chinese admiral. It was interesting, though, that he discussed Chinese aircraft carriers as if they were inevitable, the development of that capability by China's Navy. I don't know whether they fully intend to or not. And I closed that part of the conversation with him by telling him carrier operations are not as easy as they look. And he, I think, understood that.
Yes, China is now a big country, particularly after the Olympic Games. They think they're themselves the big. So they like to dominate Western Pacific. But militarily, you are a professional for a long time, and particularly you have knowledgeable on the military power, sea power. China has capability militarily to control a big portion of Pacific?
I don't think they have the capability to control a big portion of the Pacific, nor am I sure that they intend to control any part of the Pacific. We would certainly contest that concept, I hope, by discussion, by dialogue, by exchange, and by sharing, by exchanging personnel and information, and by demonstrating our continued capability with Kaijo Jeitai and navies from other countries in the region. So I don't think that China will ever, I'm confident, China will never develop a capability to control the Pacific. They, however, want to have access to the Pacific, into the Indian Ocean, and that's perfectly understandable. You know how much, 95% of their oil comes through the Strait of Malacca, so the free and ready access to the maritime domain is important to China, as it is to Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, all the countries in the Asia-Pacific region, and to the United States. And we will do all that we can at Pacific Command to continue unfettered access by all countries who seek to prosper through the maritime domain. It's understandable, and I'm not worried about China's trying to control parts of the Pacific.
How about their capability of missile and the rocket? They say they are developing a new type of the missile, which they can hit even the carrier.
Right.
How do you evaluate their capability of missile?
That's a very good question, Hidaka-san. China is unquestionably pursuing weapons and certain procedures that we think are troublesome. We have discouraged them from these pursuits in our conversations with them. They apparently are choosing to continue development. We are not just standing still. We are developing our own tactics and techniques and procedures and equipment to counter those threats or any other threat from anyone who would challenge us in the maritime domain, and I'm confident that we'd be able to overcome those threats.
Overall, how do you evaluate the military situation in the Pacific? History say United States whale and China is elephant. They can stay on the shore and no capability to beyond the line. How do you evaluate whole military situation in the Pacific?
I'm encouraged, Hidaka-san. We have had the privilege of being in this job for almost a year and a half now. And we have traveled to dozens of countries throughout our area of responsibility. We've been to Japan 7 times, and as I said, we'll return in October if our schedule holds. A very short way of expressing our confidence is perhaps best said by saying the guns are silent in the Pacific. There are no nation states fighting other nation states. We are encouraged by the strength of the alliance we share with Japan and others such as Thailand, Australia, the Philippines, and South Korea. There are areas where we are, of course, paying close attention. China's military buildup, North Korea. But I am encouraged much more in the year and a half that I have been here than I was before. And as you say, I have spent almost all my career working throughout the Asia-Pacific region on ships and in joint assignments, and I'm more optimistic today than I was a year and a half ago.
Now, your evaluation on their intention. Many American politicians say we cannot see what the China people is thinking, ambiguous. Right. Do you agree with your politician, or what do you see?
It's an important distinction that we make, Hidaka-san, here at Pacific Command in talking to our Chinese counterparts. China professes a desire to seek a peaceful rise, to achieve harmonious integration. Those are certainly commendable goals. We salute them. We support them. However, when China says they are transparent, that is true to a point, and the verbal distinctions are important here. Transparency is, to me, a rather passive term. We in the United States, in conjunction and coordination with our allies, we can see much of what China is doing militarily. That is transparent. What is less clear, but what is more important, is developing a very clear understanding of intention. Transparency, we can figure out the kind of equipment they have or the tactics they're using. It's intention. To what reason, for what goal does China intend to pursue those military tactics, techniques, and procedures? They are less clear with us in stating their intention, and it is that area we are concentrating in helping Chinese help us understand what they intend to do with those capabilities. It's an important distinction, and we're working very hard on it.
As a commanding officer of front line to defend the free country, you are worried about the lack of transparency of the Chinese intention?
I wouldn't say I'm worried about it, Hidaka-san. It is an issue that we deal with every day here on our headquarters. I talk with other officials such as Saito-san in Japan and other officials all throughout area of responsibility. I am not worried about China's intentions. I seek better understanding as to China's intentions, and that's a point I continue to emphasize in my dialogue with Chinese officials at every opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a little bit persistent on this because history books say American specialists on Japanese affairs pre-war time said same thing. Japanese military intention is transparent, and Japan hit the Pearl Harbor. So that kind of the problem you don't have against China at this time.
I don't think it is likely to be manifest at all the way that our countries ended up fighting 60-some years ago. I am convinced that China will understand any military aggression they undertake will lead to their defeat if they involve the United States or our allies. And I think they are smart enough, they're wise enough, they are sufficiently well-versed in historical studies that they understand that they cannot defeat